Please. Please. Please, I can't breathe.
Tension building tonight in Minneapolis after an unarmed black man died.
After an officer knelt on his neck.
The incident was caught on camera.
The man identified as George Floyd. The outrage in Minneapolis is mounting even after 4 officers were fired.
And breaking right now, protests underway in downtown Las Vegas. Chopper 13 flying over the container park where a large group gathered just moments ago. This after a busy night of protests on the Las Vegas Strip as well. Demonstrators speaking out against the death of George Floyd and police brutality altogether.
Where protesters were walking last night. You can still see some of their signs here on the ground, but those protests turned violent. Now, our crews were here last night when it happened. They say about 11 o'clock, police were trying to break up the protest. At about 11:20, our crews heard several gunshots, even started to run for cover themselves. Police say they encountered a man with body armor and a gun. When he reached for his weapon, officers shot and killed him.
Jeanne, Llera, mother of Jorge Gomez, tearfully remembers June 1st, 2020. That's the day her son was shot and killed by Las Vegas Metro Police Department officers during a Black Lives Matter protest.
Jorge Gomez.
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 Jorge Gomez, shot to death by Metro Police at the federal courthouse during a Black Lives Matter protest. Today, prosecutors decided the officers involved will not face charges.
Will not face charges.
When you watched the video evidence in this case, did you see Mr. Gomez level a rifle?
I did not.
Okay. You'd agree with me that from the evidence that you provided today, there's not a clear depiction of him raising a rifle. Do you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Hello everybody, my name is Jorge Gomez. I'm the father of Jorge Antonio Gomez.
Hello, my name is Jeanne Llera. I'm the mother of Jorge Antonio.
My name is Jonathan Gomez. I'm the big brother of Jorge Antonio Gomez.
My name is Jazmin Gomez. I'm the sister of Antonio Gomez, who was killed by LVMPD on June 1st, 2020.
Disaster, I feel so bad. Did you get his tree?
Which one is it?
The one in the middle. So this is Jorge Antonio's avocado tree. This was a pit when Jorge Antonio passed away, when the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department killed him on June 1st of 2020. This was a avocado pit, and we planted this in his honor. There is some of his ashes at the roots of this tree, and it has grown about as tall as he was, probably taller. And we are waiting for some avocados. As everyone knows at this point, Juan Antonio's favorite were avocados. So this tree was planted in his honor.
When you found out he was killed, what was your initial reaction?
For me, the moment that the enemy told me that my son was dead, they killed me too. I died that moment. On the day that my son died, I woke up, went out my routine, read the news, smoke a cigarette outside. When I opened the gate, the security gate, the medical examiner card fell on the floor. It wasn't good for me, but I wasn't sure about exactly what happened, so I called. The lady that I spoke with told me that, asked me if I was Jorge Gomez and if I knew Jorge Antonio Gomez, and I said yes, and she told me that my son was being killed at the courthouse by the police. Personally, I don't wish I don't wish this to anybody, not even my worst enemy, but my world crumbled. I died that moment. After she told me that, I was numb. It was surreal. I didn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I even went to his room just to make sure that he was there. In the 20 minutes that it took from when I hung up with her to when the police detective called me, I went on my phone because I wanted to know exactly what happened. So I went into the news because the night before I got a notification, once again, I don't know if it was Facebook or Instagram, about the shooting of the officer at Circus, and then the other one for the courthouse. So when that happened, I went to a specific news channel. And that news channel was the only one at that moment that said that the suspect, which at that moment I knew was my son because he told me that it was at the courthouse, had shot a police officer in the back of the head. That's not my son. I didn't think that he would ever do something like that in my life. That's not who we raised. It wasn't easy for me, not that I doubted him, but I didn't doubt the news either. Big mistake.
I was in my room and his dad calls me and he calls me Jeanne. He says, "Jeanne, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, George, I'm okay." I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, No, I need to make sure that you're okay." And I'm like, "Why wouldn't I be? What's going on?" And he said, "They killed him. They killed him." "They killed who? What's going on?" "They killed Jorge Antonio. Jorge Antonio's dead." And I know based on what Jazmin told me is that I let out a loud scream. And then she was in her room and she ran into my room and she says, "Mom, what's going on?" And I'm gonna talk to your dad. Talk to your dad. And then I fell to the ground. And then I was like, "I'm gonna find him. I'm gonna find him." He just went to his friend's house. Maybe he went back to Oregon. George doesn't know. I'm gonna go find him. I'm gonna go find him. I remember getting up and trying to find my laptop because I was gonna go find him. And I couldn't open the laptop. It couldn't function. All I knew was I was gonna go find him. Because he wasn't dead. I was gonna go find him. He was okay. Next thing I remember, I'm on a flight. Yeah. I never felt it. It's okay, we gotta do this. Sorry. It's going to be a long day if I don't get through this.
What was your initial thought when you learned what Jorge had allegedly done, pointing the gun at the officer?
Oh, I knew it didn't happen. I know him. You know, he was a vegetarian, for God's sakes. It's just not him. You know, I know his beliefs. I know what he stood for. I know what he was out there doing, you know. So I knew that it was life, you know. And you know, we were Googling stuff, and I'm like, this is just not my kid. I don't know whose kid they're talking about. They're not talking about my kid. Because I just know him. You know your kids. Good, bad, and the ugly. You know, and it was just not him. And I know it wasn't him. And I know that he didn't do anything wrong. Till today, he didn't. Proven now.
I mean, I cried. I was driving on the street, so I had to calm down. Jeanne called me, and it was when she told me, and I couldn't believe it at first. I couldn't process it. I had to try to make it home because I was still driving out in the street and trying to pick up Lulu and trying to understand what happened. When I heard those words, I just never gonna leave me. I don't care how they said it, how it was. I mean, anything that they put out on the news, I just knew there was another story to it.
Me and my fiance at the time, we were asleep, and I got the call, and my dad asked me, he's like, hey, you know, make sure that you're sitting down. He tells me. And the first thing I do is I crumple up into a ball, you know, and then I get up and I destroy the refrigerator. We had plans. We had plans of him meeting his nephew. And
what was your initial thought when you learned what Jorge had allegedly done, such as pointing the gun at the officers?
I knew off top that there's no way. There was no way.
That baseball bat later turned out to be obviously the rifle that he was carrying. This officer confronted Mr. Gomez, and during that exchange, the officer fired 5 low-lethal rounds at Mr. Gomez, fearing that he was going to strike the officers with a baseball bat. Mr. Gomez was struck with the beanbag rounds and proceeded to run northbound along Las Vegas Boulevard in front of the courthouse. Sergeant Fryman, Officer Emerton, Officer Ferguson, and Officer Loker were driving southbound on the boulevard en route to our downed officer call that had happened moments before. They saw Mr. Gomez, and as they exited their vehicles, Mr. Gomez raised that rifle in their direction. These officers engaged Mr. Gomez, firing several shots and striking him.
Police say he raised his gun at officers before he was shot.
Metro says he raised a gun at officers.
Police said that several other responding officers saw Gomez raise his rifle towards officers
and pointed it at officers before he was shot.
Police say he pointed a gun at them.
Leavitt says none of the 4 officers directly involved in the shooting were wearing body cameras, but all stated they shot Gomez after he pointed a gun at them.
Jason Levitt, the lead investigator who gave a presentation, answered questions. He said he did not see Gomez level a weapon.
You watched the video evidence in this case. Did you see Mr. Gomez level a rifle?
I did not.
Okay. You'd agree with me that from the evidence that you provided today, there's not a clear depiction of him raising a rifle. Do you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
The first time we asked them for videos, they said, and I quote, "You want to see the videos? You have to sue us. Otherwise, you're not going to see them." So we did exactly what they asked. We sued them. It took them 10 months because they were looking for, I'm not going to say justice, but justification on why they murdered my son. They couldn't find any. So they went to the second best choice, which is Wilson, because we all know that he doesn't do shit for Las Vegas citizens other than unless you put a lot of money into his pocket for his campaign, he doesn't do anything. So they went to him and they had to release it. When they have no justification, the videos and pictures are pixelated and blurry, but when they're justified, clear as day. And they come the next day. My son took 10 months to get something that they already had the next day.
How has your experience been when dealing with LVMPD?
Lies. I mean, it's all lies, manipulation. They try to take advantage of you are family, all families, when you're at your weakest, to make it seem like they're on the right side, you know. And I saw it, like, it's almost like I sit back and I just look at them and I'm like, I don't understand, you know. So it's just lies and manipulation. They set things up methodically, you know, like that Friday when they wanted us to go see the videos, they used that on purpose to get us out of the house to try and do a search warrant at the condo. Damn, you want to go check the condo? Ask us. Go check the condo. We have nothing to hide. They told us to go to the sheriff's or officers, whatever, I'm not even sure what it's called. And they were going to show us some videos, right? So then they had us outside for probably a good half an hour, like 110-degree weather. And then we finally get in there, and then they take us to this little room. And it was Sergeant Ayaculo and Lieutenant Floyd, I think it was his name, tall gentleman, Floyd. It's very similar to that. And they just showed us videos of him walking, and it was a faraway video, one of the first videos that came out, that you saw him kind of walking in the distance. And so they had showed us some videos, and they showed us videos with the, you know, Trump for jail sign, and they showed us the picture, and then they showed us the video of him telling the officer, fuck you, you know, whatever, yeah, you know. Towards the end of it, the tall gentleman, I think it was Lieutenant Floyd or Lloyd, looks over at me and he says, you know, these officers that had to shoot your son, they are distraught. They are going through a rough time right now. Can you please tell me some words to console them? Can you please tell me some words to justify this to them? And I broke out and I said, you tell them that they killed the good kids. That's the manipulation of life. When you're down,
Why do you feel it took them so long to release the footage and the fifth officer's name?
They believe time passing would take away from our desire to fight. You know, it was a hot topic, you know, with the George Floyd murder, with everything, with Breonna Taylor, with all, you know, the victims that were out there being killed by police. So they were trying to almost let it settle down so that they could control it, you know. So because they had, and we know this now, the first stop that they went was to get these videos. So they had these videos from the very beginning.
To release the fifth officer's name.
I think they were, in a way, they already knew that he was in trouble. He was the one that, you know, murdered, you know, Brian Keith Day, murdered Rex Wilson. You know, shortly thereafter, you know, he had gone into a bar fight and bit somebody. So he was their problem child. He was the one that set everything into motion. And the officers that shot him are as responsible as John Squillo is.
They said that because he didn't shoot any lethal rounds on Jorge Antonio, he wasn't part of it. He was the beginning. He had no reason to approach or even talk to my son, none whatsoever. This is public record. When he was still on the floor, down, I believe that one of the officers says, stop, cease fire, and Sergeant Ryman decided, or Fryman, or whatever his fucking name is, decided to shoot twice in the back of my son's head, even though he was down and he wasn't a threat anymore because another officer called, asked them to stop shooting. He decided to shoot him twice in the back of the head. That's execution.
It was said Jorge was becoming more radicalized leading up to the protest. Do you believe he was?
No, and the officers, and that Ayaculo was the one who actually, I guess they're the ones who use that word radicalized. all to make you feel, you know, like they're justifying themselves for murdering somebody. Like they were the good guys because they got this radical person off the street. Then in all honesty, they probably should have, you know, taken everybody off the street, because everyone that night was protesting for George Floyd. Everyone that night was protesting for their First Amendment rights, you know, and we're not radicalized for doing that. That's our constitutional right.
Do you want to go over the details about the text messages that night of? Because I know that you mentioned.
Oh yeah, the police were saying that I told them that my son was radicalized even before the protests, leading to the protests. Actually, that's what they're saying. Around 12:06, after I don't know if it was Facebook or Instagram, and I got the notification of the one at the courthouse. That at that point I didn't know it was my son. I saw the video of the person running and getting shot, but it was very pixelated that you couldn't make out who was it. Around 12:36, I said, I heard there was a shooting. Please tell me you're okay. I want to make sure that he was okay. At 1:00 a.m., Jorge Antonio, please answer me. Just let me know you're okay. I was worried, but you know, because I didn't want him to get arrested either. And then at 3:03 a.m. was when I left home. I said, I took an Uber home. See you when you get home. Be careful. All I wanted to know that he's okay. He doesn't have to tell me where he's at or anything. But I continued texting, and for me, his phone probably died. Never thought that he was the one who died. And I was expecting to see him in the morning, which I never got I never get to see him again. But that's what I was thinking was going to happen. So, as you can see, if it was the police narrative was true, why would I be texting him, making sure that he's okay, and to see him in the morning? They're lying, and they want to cover their asses. That's all it is.
Take a break.
Yeah, need a cigarette. Need a cigarette.
Action News update now. The family of a man killed by Las Vegas Metro Police files a new lawsuit in federal court.
Officially filed a federal lawsuit.
Gomez's family has a lawsuit against the officers. In a federal civil rights lawsuit filed by
lawyers for Gomez's parents filed a civil rights lawsuit against the officers involved, Ryan Fryman, Dan Emerton, Vernon Ferguson, and Andrew Locker. And they just added a fifth officer, John Squeo, who they say fired non-lethal rounds at Gomez before he was killed.
A hearing today could determine if Las Vegas Metro police officers will face charges for a deadly shooting last year.
Exactly where protesters will gather ahead of that formal fact-finding review into the police shooting death of Jorge Gomez.
Here for his family. He deserves justice. We want justice. Because if this is happening to him, this could happen to any of our friends, any of our family.
Jorge Gomez didn't deserve to die that night. And he represents so many that have.
All right, Justin, new at midday today, no Metro police officers will be charged in the death of Jorge Gomez.
Today, prosecutors decided the officers involved will not face charges.
The officers involved in Gomez's death will not face charges. That decision was announced today by the Clark County District Attorney.
Is the officer saying that he raised the weapon, but the video clearly shows that he did not. So you want us to believe the liars that are Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
Gomez family does not deserve this. They don't deserve to be kicked continuously, time and time again. They deserve dignity, they deserve respect, they deserve more than anything honesty. Our community deserves honesty. We didn't get that today.
They also called for justice in the high-profile police shooting death of Jorge Gomez.
Police, they labeled him as radical, but all he wanted was change. And that's all we want is change. So we're not gonna be scared, we're gonna keep pushing, we're still gonna apply pressure, and we're just gonna keep going and not give up. And like I said, he died fighting for Black lives, so it's only right that we're out here fighting for him.
That's our main thing, is to spread awareness. So we're out here basically in front of Sergeant Fryman's house.
Good morning. Today we are outside the officer's house.
Times like Jorge Gomez, not speaking up when somebody gets shot. They need to start holding their department accountable for what has been going on for years.
Release the video!
Release the video!
Release the video!
So we're outside the house of Dan Emerton. He is 1 out of 5 officers that were involved in the murder of Jorge Gomez. He fired 4 out of 19 shots towards Jorge Gomez right now.
Justice for Jorge Gomez!
Today is November 10th, 2021. It's been over a year that Jorge Gomez has not received any justice, and the man inside is responsible for that. His name is District Attorney Steve Wilson. He decided not to indict 5 of the officers who murdered Jorge Gomez June 1st, 2020.
We're letting Diego Wilson know that we're not taking this shit, that he can't just run for office and not be held accountable for not charging officers for the death and murder of Jorge Gomez.
Piero's Italian cuisine. Right now we're protesting and disrupting his fundraising dinner because he thinks he should raise funds to be re-elected as district attorney come 2022. They blocked the traffic to limit how many people can see this and have access to this information.
People with the PAs, let's take them.
We order to disperse and we're leaving. Hey!
We gotta get gas.
What do you think Jorge valued most in life?
Life, animals. He loved animals. And to the end, when I last spoke with him on the day that he died, the truth.
Other people, nature and animals, he was super environmentally conscious. He would always give people a hard time when they used plastic and didn't recycle, and he really valued our planet and valued the people on it and valued nature and animals and all of that.
He was a vegetarian for most of his adult life because he wouldn't kill an animal. So he really just, he was a people person. He loved helping people. He loved helping animals.
The fact that you were alive, whether it was in good standing or bad standing, the fact that you had to be here and be somebody was important to him.
What is your favorite memory of Jorge? Probably just all those times playing games, hide and seek in the dark, playing tag. We played truth or dare a lot.
My favorite memory is him being strong. He was diagnosed with ADHD. He was on Ritalin back in the early 2000s, back when Ritalin was done in honey. And he didn't like it. He had said that it made him feel like a zombie and that he wasn't himself. And he had came down to the family and he had told us that he was done taking the medication and that he was going to force himself or make himself try and calm down. And then getting older, it made me realize how much he had to actually go through, because it's not something that you can just stop. And it proved that he was stronger than most people know.
We went on a cruise, and I would always have the kids, try to one-up them. I was eating habanero. Jorge was like, I'm gonna try it. And then he goes, really small, little teeny bit. I'm like, man, you can't even have that. It's too spicy for you. And he's like, no, it's not. And he has a bigger bite. And I'm like, oh yeah? "Oh, how about you put it in your eye?" And then I opened my eye and I barely touched it, but he's like, "Oh yeah." So he opens his eye really big and he's like, "Ah!" Jeanne was like, "Stop it, you guys, stop it." And then we went to go get pictures at formal night.
I remember when he was probably about 3 years old. We went snowmobiling with the kids, and Jorge Antonio was, of course, too little to, ride his own snowmobile. It was freezing cold, and look, he was shivering. So I actually put him backwards on the snowmobile. So his legs were around my legs, and then his head, my chest. I wrapped him up in my coat, and he fell asleep as we're snowmobiling. I could just feel him breathing. I love that. That was like one of my favorite memories of him.
Most of the time was Christmas. He was always happy. He was always thankful of what he got, regardless of what it was. And just seeing his light lit up every time he opened one present, for me, it was something special. He loved Christmas. As you can see in some pictures with customs and things like that, he loved Christmas. Just me having to spend the night before putting toys together for them and for him, it was really good memories of him.
Is there a particular lesson learned from Jorge?
I think I learned personally from how he lived. I think I learned a lot, like checking up on people and being kind to family, because he was always the one who would check in with my grandparents who lived in Brazil during COVID, and he was always the one checking on me and checking on Jonathan, and it didn't go the other way around so much, and I think I've tried to do better with that since he passed.
After he passed, Jonathan summed it up, and he said he was the kindest among us. He was the one that would stop and help anybody, the homeless. He would stop and help an animal, He was just a very kind and humble soul. He was never too good for anything. I was just talking to you about that. He was the one that would hang out with the kids, the little ones, and play with them. And he was just very humble, very kind. And he didn't have any type of ego. He would just do anything he could to help.
He always looked for the best in people. He always tried to help everybody. Family member that was fishing with him lost, so he paid the homeless person the $5. Well, Jorge Antonio gave him 10. And the family member turned to him and said, "Why did you give him money if I already gave him money? You know that he's going to buy beers." And Jorge Antonio turned around and said, "Wasn't your money? It wasn't your money, it was my money. And whatever he does with it, that's his problem, not mine. Once I give it to him, it belongs to him. I don't care." That's the way he was. Even the day that he was killed, his last $5 that he had in his pocket, he gave it to a homeless person. When he was walking, he asked him for a cigarette, and he said, "Well, I don't smoke, but here you go," and gave him his last $5. And that's something that homeless guy told us the day that the first protest that we did in downtown.
What do you wish you could say to him now?
Good job. Good job. Because I don't think without certain things happening and certain steps going on, not just because you died, but because that death was able to strengthen so many other voices. You did a good job.
I wish that I would have just told him that I loved him more. We were in contact, we talked about every week, but I feel like he checked up on me a lot more than I checked up on him, and I wish that I could change that and ask him more about what was going on in his life rather than just talking about myself.
I wish I would have told him Like, I always tell them, I love you, and I wish I would have hugged them. Regardless of everything, you did the right thing.
I love you. And I miss you so much. And I'm damn proud of you.
Me and Jorge Antonio, we talked the day before, the day of, minutes before. We always talked. Other than ending my my last text with him with "I love you," I thought I was going to have the opportunity to say "I love you" later on. If he was alive, I would say keep fighting. It's worth it. We need it. But unfortunately, I'm not going to have the opportunity to tell him, but that's what I would say.
Is that what you would say to him now?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
All right, is there anything else you want to say?
All I can say is, for you people that are out there fighting, protesting, getting arrested, getting killed, getting abused by the police because they don't like what you guys are fighting for. You know, in 1776, people were fighting for the same thing. They were called heroes. Over 400 years later, now you guys are called terrorists, anarchists, lawbreakers. Fuck them. Continue. Don't stop until we get what you guys need. You young people out there, remember one thing. This is all these old people out there saying, don't do that, United States is the best. No, it's not. No, it's not until you make it the way you want it. We're on the way out. We don't matter. They might have the money, but they're gonna die, hopefully soon. So make this world, or let me talk not globally, but more locally, make this nation the way you want it for your future. It's not our future because our future's already gone. Make your future the way you want it, and don't stop. Don't let this government tell you how you should live. Don't let them make this world a world that doesn't exist anymore, because the world that they believe in, or the United States that they believed in, that was in the past. That's when they were young. It doesn't exist anymore. Make it the way you want it. And don't stop.
Is there a particular lesson learned from Jorge?
Yeah. And that's a lesson that I'm going to pass on to my grandkids. Don't trust the fucking police.
A protest in downtown Las Vegas as family of Jorge Gomez demand justice for the 25-year-old. Now, he was shot and killed by police during a Black Lives Matter protest some 2 years ago today.
He hasn't received any justice for 2 years. Steve Wilson never indicted the officers, and I just think it's time that people take it to the streets and just keep on applying pressure.
Fighting with all y'all. There's some new faces, obviously, but everybody who's fought with us and supported us, we want to thank you. Today was pretty emotional. It gets very emotional, but it also is powerful when you come together like this.
We just want to say we love you, we thank you, and we'll never stop fighting. We're never stopping.